Timeless by Davido's new album released March 30th, 2023. It is 17 songs, 49 minutes and 18 seconds. Are you cool for me to just cut that down and round it off to a nice even 49 minutes?
I'm cool with that.
Perfect. As I mentioned, new album recently comes out. Obviously, it follows its two predecessors. It's the third in the trilogy, following A Good Time and then A Better Time. You can catch our review of that all the way back on track 9. You shouldn't listen to it because it's a terrible episode. But just to let you know, it's there, and we did review it in case you're interested. But new album from Davido. It's always good to hear one of the, like I mentioned, man, one of the Afrobeats big three. I think it's fair to say a legend in his own right, an absolute legend in the game, coming back for a new project. Were you excited for this one?
I was very, very excited. It's been a while since we last heard Davido. The last time we heard him, on A Better Time, for those who have heard the review already, or for those who do go back and listen to the review, even though you really shouldn't, it wasn't our favorite album. We didn't have a lot of good things to say about that. Now as time passed, I'm not sure that necessarily changed for you. For me, it stayed pretty consistent. It's not one of the albums that I go back to, just because it wasn't an enjoyable time for me. It wasn't a better time for me. But
that was a good one.
Thank you.
That was a good one. I like it.
Thank you.
You were looking for me to cut you off. That was a good one, man.
Nah.
One.
I assumed you were gonna get out, you know.
No, I saw you were building up to it. I was like, yeah, this is gonna land well. Yeah.
It's not one of the albums I go back to. That being said, though, just with the quality of music that's been coming out of Nigeria over the last, especially last year, but over the last few years now, I was excited for this one. I was really excited to see what Davido added to that.
Yeah, man. Was that same place? Wasn't a fan of A Better Time. Obviously, I know we had back and forths with our good friend Mr. Daniel Oderindi, who really loved that album. I think he said he has Davido above Wizkid and Burna Boy for him. And then we have friends like Bobby who swear that when they see Davido's on site for whatever reason, I don't know why. And obviously, I remember saying at the time, you said at the time as well, and you said definitely more than me, so I'll give you props from that. Joa off that Better Time album was definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, and it has remained one of them, I think. Definitely standing the test of time. So yeah, me too. I was excited for this project. I was interested to see where Davido would go. We know there's been some difficult things going for him and his family and his personal life. We won't get into that here, but I was interested to see if he would touch upon any of that on the project. But I was excited for the project regardless, and I think it's similar to what you said. The quality of music that we've had really out of the whole continent of Africa. Obviously, if we focus on Nigeria for the purpose of this album and this segment, but really out of the whole continent of Africa over the past 2-3 years has just been so stellar, so fucking stellar that it's like, okay, one of the legitimate Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Famers gets to throw his hat into the ring again. I'm excited for this. So all right, but let's get into it. This is our review of Timeless by Davido. But of course, before we get started, once again, man, if you are a fan of this type of thing, you can catch our podcast anywhere that you get your podcast from, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever it is, we got it for you. And please do keep in touch with all of our socials. You can find us on Twitter at 2Stnigerian. You can find us on Twitter at 2Stnigerians. We're on Instagram and TikTok at 2_stubborn_Nigerians. And whilst you're here listening to us on the YouTube, please do like a video, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, and leave us a comment to see what you think, how you feel about this album. Let us know your take. And if you've got an album that you really want us to get to, why don't you leave a note down in the comments and we'll try and get to that for you. But let's start as we mean to go on, man. I'm going to throw to you. What are your overall thoughts on the album? What themes did you pick up? And also, what do you think of this album cover? Now that I'm looking at it,
the album cover threw me off when I first went to go and download it. Especially just based on what the album cover was for A Good Time, what the album cover was for A Better Time. This album cover for me, I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, we're doing animals, elephants, giraffes, and then the what's it called, silhouette of your head or a head. Let me not say your head because I can't even assume that. It threw me off. But
Do you not see the hourglass in the middle though?
Oh, with the hourglass. I didn't even clock the hourglass for
Which
real.
is halfway. It's halfway. So it's timeless.
I see what you're saying. Nah, it's grown on me. The more I see it, the more that I like it. I wasn't the biggest fan of it at first because it sort of felt like because you come out of Nigeria, out of Africa, you just come with an African type theme. But the more I look at it, the more I'm like, this is actually a really beautiful painting, if it has been painted, or really beautiful artwork in general, should I say. So yeah, I don't mind it. I like it, in fact. That being said, what are the themes I got out of this album? The themes I got out of this album, it just sort of felt like, okay, it felt like we're back to business as usual, if that makes sense. And I mean that in terms of every word I'm saying here. It feels like, we are back to business as usual, because it does feel like, especially with how he opened up this album, it feels like, okay, I took a break. I felt down with the whole David and Goliath analogy he was using in the intro, especially. It felt like, yeah, cool. I've been through some stuff. I've had to fight some battles. But then the rest of the album, not the rest, because there's certain times where he does go back to talk about some of the, not hardships, but some of just the fact that he's had to fight battles. He does reference it a couple times, but it does, for the most part, just feel like, okay, we've done that. Now let me give you what I do, which is high energy. I'm a successful man, living a successful life, living my best life, Davido. And that's what the rest of the album is. So you do get that in glimpses, which I was interested to see if he would do. I won't say I necessarily even wanted him to get into that, because that's something, we're not going to go too deep into it, but the things that we've seen that he's gone through, devastating things. And if he decides that that's not something he wants to put in his music, more power to him, because I would not ask anyone to try and talk about anything that they weren't comfortable with, especially in that type of note. So I didn't necessarily even expect it. But yeah, I think theme wise, I liked what we got out of Davido. It was nice to see that he's still in this place where he feels like he can still talk about him living his best life to an extent.
Yeah, I feel you. I saw a review of this album which summed it up as saying it's mostly form over substance. And I think that is a fair assessment. It's, like you said, a return to form and a return for him to what we know his artistry to be, rather than the substance laden. It's not as substance laden, maybe as some other music that he's dropped, or as it could have been. But I don't think that's a negative. I actually think that gives the album a lot of strength, is that we get to see Davido back in really strong form with the music that he was putting out. Like you said, it's high energy. His personality shines through. His artistry shines through. The diversity of sounds really help encapsulate that. And like he said, if them one turn Goliath, I'd be David for life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could, whatever Goliath you throw in front of me, I'll always be David, which is a double.
Yep.
Because his name is David.
Yep.
But David in the Bible, took down Goliath,
man,
with just a singular stone,
man,
from a slingshot. I don't think y'all are hearing me at home. let me really try hard, because what people don't understand, Raheem, is that God did not send David to go and slay Goliath.
Nah, not at all.
He sent Goliath to prove to David that within him lay a warrior.
Oh my God,
a soldier, a conqueror,
man.
No, fuck with you. But yeah, I do think I like that as a description. It's mostly form over substance, but it's good form. It's good form. So let's get into it, man. Let's talk about these songs. Talk about some of the songwriting, the lyricism, and what stood out for you in that realm.
Okay, all right. In terms of songwriting, and this is where it got difficult for me because as I sit here today, I can't say honestly that I enjoyed this album. I can't say I enjoyed it. Well, I can't say I enjoyed it the first few listens. The first few listens, I really, really struggled through this album because I think, especially in the first half of this album, Davido makes some weird music decisions that I don't think necessarily benefited any of the songs in the first half.
Okay.
And when I say weird music decisions, funnily enough, if we go back to the conversation that we're having when it came to if we go back to the conversation we're having when it comes to hooks of songs, like we both said, is a talent for an artist to say, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're not going to do all of this, and we're going to say this line in this specific way to make this song something that millions of people are going to want to sing. I feel like Davido made a bunch of decisions where he said, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, I'm going to say this line in this way, this line in this way, we're going to have this cadence, and I feel like a lot of the time it hurt the songs. And for that reason, in terms of the songwriting, I think the first half of it, although lyrically pretty decent, especially if we're talking about the intro, where he's talking about, as you said, if everyone was turned to Goliath, I'll be David for life. Yo, that is solid songwriting. That's stronger songwriting than I expected from Davido, even from someone who told me that when I look into your eyes, all I see is your waist. Like that's crazy. That's crazy.
Legendary.
But I think a part of songwriting is also making the right decisions of what to do with your song or how to deliver a line in a way that makes that line impactful and makes the song sound better. And I think in that instance, in the first half of the album, very important I mentioned in the first half of the album, I think Davido missed that mark pretty frequently throughout that first half. That being said, if we're talking about just simply the songwriting by itself, if we're just like, if you're reading this as poetry, I think it's solid. I think he does a solid job. Where he goes back to his normal form and is doing hitting his normal Davido bag where it's joyous music. It's I'm successful, I'm a big success, I'm living my best life type music. Yo, he's mastered that. He's mastered it. We know that he mastered it. We know he's not gonna do a bad job there. But again, I just think he makes weird music decisions that hurt the album as a whole, in my opinion.
Interesting. I think your closing summary is where I sit with it is that it's solid all the way through. I think there's different points where it's better than others. So like we said, obviously we've already said that Goliath, but I think that whole intro track of Over Them, some of the little different schemes that he throws out, just basically getting to that point that like whatever they throw in front of me, I'll rise above it. You know what I'm saying? Like you carry a gun, me, I carry bomb. Like that's, just be able to I'll always rise above whatever the obstacle is in front of me, which I think is really good messaging and stuff that he could potentially point to different points of his career where he's actually been able to do that and actually say, I've done that. So, I'm him in that regard for real, which I think is interesting. Nothing really that like throughout the real whole project that makes me stand up and go, oh my goodness, that was crazy. That was cold. This is one of the greatest things I've ever heard. Like this is poetry. I don't really get that feel a lot. It's very much for me more of a vibe album than a lyrics heavy album. Hence why form over substance. But the substance is suitable enough or solid enough that it's not a problem. I can hear myself by the way.
No.
Yeah. No, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you at all. I think it's definitely more of a vibes album. It's more of a vibes album, which is why, again, some of those music decisions that he makes the album. It hurts the album, I think, a bit more because it makes it almost. It hurts like the whole. It hurts the vibe of the album. It hurts the vibe. It makes it less of a joy to listen to.
Talk to me about the production.
Production-wise, it was cool. It was cool. I think there's certain songs on here where the production goes crazy. The song that comes to mind immediately, "Nah Money." I think "Nah Money" is woof. That's I just love the vibe of that album in general. It gives me successful montage type vibe, like Nollywood type. Yeah, everything went swimmingly, everything went to plan, and they're just showing a montage of everyone being happy. I think the production on that is just excellent. The drums, everything on that song. I love it. And that's just it's one of the benefits of having what I assume is a live band. If that was produced with 808s, I'd have no idea how they did that. But Nah Money is beautiful, man, because all the way all those instruments come together on that song, beautiful. I think sequencing wise, it's cool. It's cool. I wouldn't necessarily put anything in any other order. Would I cut songs? For sure. For
100%.
sure.
100%.
For sure. Yeah. I think there's definitely a handful of songs that can be cut from this album. In my perfect world, this album is song 10 to song 16/17. In my perfect world. And maybe you add in number 1 as well, just because that's a great song as well. But yeah, production wise, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's the best thing ever. Especially from if we're comparing it to some of the other things that we've heard out of Nigeria, out of Africa recently. It's not moving the needle for me, but it's not anything where I'm looking at it and I'm saying, man, someone dropped the ball.
So you're saying Asake got him out of here? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, yeah, he did. He did.
You're saying Mr. Money with the vibe
yes.
came better than David?
Yeah, Asake said, I want your spot. In fact, he said, I want your spot, I'm taking your spot.
Man, Asake the Demon Slayer to his bleach?
Bam.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that's a Demon Slayer to his bleach.
That's what you're trying to say?
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. That's not even what I'm trying to say. That's what I said.
He's the Steph to his Kobe. That's what you're saying.
That's his Kobe. Wow. Don't do that.
That's a bold statement you trying to make right there, King. That's a bold statement you trying to make right there. This is the nigga that made Davido. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I know what I'm saying.
Okay.
I've spoken.
I just want to make sure that you knew what you were saying. I don't agree or disagree. I just want to make sure you knew what you were saying. But since you're so confident and forthright in it, hey man.
If all I'm saying is that if Asake drops another album, the quality of Mr. Money and Mr. Money with the vibe, and Davido doesn't drop something that is the same quality of as a good time, then next album releases, we're having a conversation about that big three had shifted.
So what you're saying is Davido's living off. When I look into your eyes, all I see is your waist.
He's living off of it. He's living off of it right now. Because that's the last great song that he dropped that was like, oh, this one can shake the culture. Because don't get me wrong, Jorah was one of them. Jorah is one of them. But is it shaking the culture? No. I don't go out and just randomly hear people playing Jorah. I don't. Now, when it's played...
Niggas don't be in love no more.
They don't. That's not been the vibe. It's not been the vibe for years. And it's one of those, if you play it, I'll enjoy it. I'll definitely enjoy it. But will I scream in the club when it comes on? I can't. Even if I wanted to, I can't. Is there any song on here that if it comes on in the club, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, you play. No, there just isn't. There isn't. And Asake has an album full of them. You can play any of those songs. You play All Good Night, everyone in the club. Every other day, All Good Night. Yes. Like, we're going to scream these lyrics.
What's your stand-up in the club song? You're leaning back, like you're chilling against the wall, and then that song comes on, and now you gotta stand up.
There's so many. Because there was a time when it was and I forgot who it is. I forgot his name. I think it's FDG. No, OD. No, who is it? I can't remember his name. But the song goes, designer on my attire. You broke boys over there looking retired. Look at your trainers looking all tired. Someone pass me a lighter. I'm high, but I'm about to get higher. That used to be like, oh, okay, violence. Wake up. And then anything in the bashment section will get me up. That'll wake me up. It's time.
Excuse me?
This is why I came. This is why I came to the club.
Go outside. That's why I go to the smoking area and I don't smoke. That's when I go to the smoking area and me, I don't smoke.
What? Yo, fam, when they start the bashment section, it's like, oh, okay, this is why I agreed to come to the club. This is the only reason I'm here.
I say it all the time. You got 5 songs. So in the bashment section, I only got 5 songs, nothing more. I want that 1 hour bashment. Give me my 5 songs and I'll dip. Yeah.
Give me 1 hour. I don't need to know all the words to all of these. I don't. Just give me the 5. I need the 5 songs in there. I need my 5 songs scattered throughout the hour. That's all I need. But the rest of it,
don't give me a section. Just give me it splattered throughout the rest of the show. Don't give me no. All right, this next 30 minutes is dedicated to my whining from the island. I'm going outside. I'm going home. What the fuck do you mean? Why am I listening to 10 different Vibes Cartel songs in a row? What? No. Why are you playing 8 Dexter Dap songs back to back?
Because they need to.
No. Oh, call me if. No underwear, girl policy, and then that's about it. Take a break, and then you could come back with Rompin' Shop, dedicated to the man living life. What happened? And that's it, and then I'm done. I don't want to hear no more.
I need all of it, man. They even put me on. That's why the DJ still put me on. I'm like, what song is this? Let me Shazam this in the club.
Shazamming in the club is crazy. Because why do people look at you like I'm the mad one? It's not like I don't know this song.
But I want to listen to this song when I get home. I don't know the DJ.
That's how you'll have to start remembering the lyrics. Okay, and then when you get out of the club, okay, let me. It said, what did it say? I like the production on this. There are some things I would do without. I think there's a lot of different vibes that they go into. So, like you said, Now Money is very traditional Nollywood vibes. Bop with Dexter Daps, the aforementioned Dexter Daps, takes a bit more of an island vibe, throws in there. So it goes in different places. It all sounds fine. I definitely don't need all of it. I would cut this out. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I would cut this album down a lot, not in the way that you would do it. I would cut it down differently, but we're different. 2 different people. We're allowed to think different things. We're allowed to have different thoughts. Obviously, it's a bonus track. Excuse me. Obviously, it's a bonus track, but Champion Sound with Vocalistic, I think, is a real. I love that song. I love the production on that song. I love the beat. So the production's fine. I think it's good. There's nothing egregious here, but there are songs I just wouldn't have on the album, and I don't. And the production doesn't necessarily help that in that sense, if that makes sense. Cohesion wise, I think the length of it makes me struggle a bit with it. Like when I get into it, I get really into it. But I think the length of it hurts the cohesion a bit with that. To that, you say what?
I agree. But again, and I hate to beat a dead horse, but I will. For me, the first time I listened to this album, I was in the office by myself because you could choose when you go in, and everyone else said I'm not going in on Friday. So I said I'm definitely going in on Friday. And literally, as the album was playing, Overdone, obviously, you turn on the album, you're excited to listen to Davido for the first time. So I definitely was locked in for that. And then I feel like the rest of it was background music until I got to Kante. That was the first time I raised my head and said, whoa, what's this song? What is this song? Looked at my phone and said, oh man, this is special. That was the first time. So between song 1 and song 10, I was zoned out.
I really don't like our podcast, but there's moments like this where I love our podcast, right? Because I too was on autopilot from song 1 through to Kante. But it's because Kante, obviously, I saw the track list and I saw, Kante, my guy from my team. I'm a Chelsea fan. So this has to be a good song. This is not allowed to be a bad song. And I really don't like that song. So I stood up when I heard it. I don't like the song. So it was the first song I stood up for. I was like, oh shit, let me listen. But I was like, yo, I don't like this. This is not enjoyable music for my ears.
Fair.
Because it does, even in terms of what Kante does on a football pitch, it doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? Like you can't call a song LeBron and say I'm swishing this through like LeBron. Ooh, I'm swishing this through like LeBron. Ooh, like do you know what I mean? Like that's not his game. Like I get what she said. Like Kante, your skill is precious. I like that. Like, but like there's just other things that they're saying. I'm like, yo, this ain't.
Do you think you would have enjoyed it more if it wasn't called Kante?
Yes. Absolutely.
Your flimsy ass music opinion.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie to you. 1,000%. You call that shit Ben Simmons? I'm with it. I'm with it. It's just you just can't call it Kante. What are you doing? When I'm going through a tumultuous season of my own.
Don't kill me.
Yeah, man.
Fair, man. Fair. Nah, yeah, I think I mean I've said it before on this podcast. The worst thing you can be, or the worst thing you could do to me when I'm listening to an album is for me to almost like not even hear the music. Which is what happens when I go on autopilot and songs are just playing and I forget that music is playing. It is essentially you've made a background music album, and that's never what, especially in the world of Afro beats, it should never, ever be background music. Ever. Furthest from it. Ever. I shouldn't even be able to think. All I should be able to think about when the music is playing is, oh, I need to be moving. That should always be number one. So it misses the mark, and that's put in that sense. It misses the mark, but when it starts hitting the mark for me, yeah, we're here.
Give me those songs, man. 3 to 1.
3 to 1 is number 3. I have, and this I was stuck between two. I think I'm gonna go Nah Money and number 3 because it's a flipping vibe. I think what the Cavemen do is ridiculous. It's just unbelievable. They really put this song over the top for me. Number 2, I'm going No Competition because when you have Asha K on your song, there's no competition unless the song is Kante, because Kante is one of them, man. That's a really, really great song. Yeah, I have to go with Kante. It could have easily been you, Juju, and number 3 as well, because that's a great song as well, featuring Skepta. I think the one thing that I definitely took from this album, as much for any complaint that I have about this album, the features, every single feature on this album showed out, and I think all the features came to play, man. All of them came to play. All of them are highlights of their own song. Whatever song has a feature on it, the feature is the better artist every single time. They all massive highlights on all of their songs. So yeah, it's no shock that my top 3.
I think that's a skill of his though. Like he's done that throughout his career, where he's always had a feature, and his features always shined on his songs. So I think it's a plus of just his artistry that, like we say about other artists, where actually people are able to be the best versions of themselves when they're on a Davido song, which is actually very interesting.
That's fair.
Yeah. Completely different top 3, man. And number 3, I got For the Road.
Okay.
I got For the Road. And my reasoning for all these 3 songs is very simply because it's a fucking vibe. 3, 2, and 1. So that's it. So yeah, For the Road at 3 because it's a fucking vibe. At 2, I got Away. Reason being, it's a fucking vibe. Just slightly better vibe than For the Road to me. I really like that track. And then number 1, I got Ipe Me. For reasons which I think, are very self-explanatory, which is that it's a fucking vibe. I was just vibing out to it, man. It's a song that makes me bop my head. It's a song that makes me listen to it. I enjoy it. I agree. A lot of this album I'm on autopilot for, so I picked the 3 songs that when I've listened to them, I always know that I'm listening to those songs, and I have specifically added those specific songs to my liked songs on Spotify, and so it's those three: For the Road, Away, He Paid Me at number one.
Fair. Scales.
Let's take it to the scales.
Okay. One day, it's just gonna be up and ready, boy. I promise you.
One day, I know, I believe it.
All right, the Two Stubborn Nigerians album rankings go as such. I hate I ever listened to this. Won't be listened to again. Whole lot of mid. Might stay in rotation for about a week. Pretty damn good. Serious project. And then either me and or Paul can give it our 50% stamp of approval. In the case that we both give it our 50% stamp of approval, the album will become Two Stubborn Nigerians approved. Paul, what are you ranking this album?
I got it as mid. Right there in the middle. Right there in the middle. It's tempted to go lower, but I'm going to keep it mid because the songs I do really like. And there are other songs which I didn't mention, which I do appreciate too. I think it's mid. I think it's better than my initial thoughts on A Better Time. If we had the scales when we did A Better Time, I would have told you I'm never listening to this shit again. And lo and behold, Ricky, guess what?
Never listen to it again.
Not a single time, not once, not even the thought, not even the glimmer in my eye of thinking to myself, maybe I should listen to A Better Time. Because it just, as you alluded to in the beginning, just wasn't a better time. It was actually a subpar time, if we're being perfectly honest. You know what I'm saying? This one is better than that. And there are moments of this that I enjoy. There are songs on this that I will actually continue to listen to more than just the one. So I think it's mid, but it is better than previously advertised.
I feel you. I'm gonna go with Won't Be Listened to Again. I was coming in here getting ready to say I ever listened to it. But just before we recorded, I listened to it again. I listened to our second half specifically. Yeah. I think that final listen is grown on me just enough to bring up a level. It's not an album that I see myself listening to. In fact, funnily enough, the day that it came out was the same day that Tyler dropped, and I found myself wanting this album to hurry up and finish so I can go back and listen to Tyler. And it's been a chore almost to listen to this. You could say I had a better time listening to Tyler than I did listening to Davido, which is sad. It's sad. In some aspects.
Stop. Do you think that's necessary? Answer the question.
No, but Paul, that one slapped. I'm just having a good time today, man. I'm just having a good time.
That was good. That one was good. But did you think that second one is the first one you did was necessary? This is how I understand the struggle of my name being Paul and me being Paul with a beard and that nigga from Blue Therapy.
Yeah. That nigga was so funny.
Bro,
I said, hey!
Show that I never watched. Didn't know nothing about. He was just me.
Yo, you know like how many weeks passed and I said, I've been watching too many memes from this guy. I need to actually see what the show's about. Oh, man. But nah, yeah, I think this album won't be listened to again. Yeah, it's kind of disappointing because 2 albums in a row now that I've looked at Davido albums and said, don't know if I want to, I haven't even been able to like really hit the download button with confidence. You know, I've only pressed the download button out obligation, and I think that's sad because I should be rushing to download Davido music. You know, there was a time when if Davido dropped, that was the vibe for the summer. And it's been a while. It's been a while since we've last had that, man. And it's sad. It's sad that I can come here and say that, yo, there's someone lurking for his spot. There's someone who might even deserve his spot. I shouldn't be able to say that. And the fact that I can is reminiscent of conversations that we once had when Drake had just dropped Scorpion, and we had to start thinking, how long are we going to let this nigga live off the success of Nothing Was the Same?
I stopped instantly.
Yeah, you stopped so quickly. You didn't give that nigga a chance. In my head, I'm like, no, but he dropped the motion.
You have that albums. No, I feel you. And you were making compelling points. I was like, you don't get 2 albums. You don't get 2 albums. Not in this game.
So if you don't get 2 albums, what are you putting Davido in your like overall rankings now?
Someone's got to give me 2 albums.
Right. So there's no one that can overtake him as of yet. But if someone does overtake him,
unless P Square reunite.
Until
that happens, we might need to chill. You know what I'm saying? If T1 wants to give me T1 gives me one more, we'll have a conversation. Asaka gives me another one, we'll have a conversation. Even fucking I was about to say Rema, but no, Rema needs to give me at least 2 more. I wasn't really a fan.
2 more.
I wasn't a big fan of Raven Roses for real.
Fair.
I wasn't a big fan of Raven Roses.
Fam,
it's a conversation.
Ashake is the one that he needs to be looking over his shoulder for, because if Ashake drops another album quality of Mr. Money with the Vibe, it's long. It's long for everyone. Even Burna Boy should be looking over his shoulder.
There's more than just that though, because you're not, but you're low key sleeping on the women. Because Arya Starr,
I'm not sleeping.
If she drops another one,
if Arya Starr drops an album, it's long.
Like she dropped one last year.
Fam, she's a superstar. She's a superstar. She's a superstar.
She
talk about a woman. Thames on everyone's neck. Thames is. I don't even think these guys should be comparing themselves.
She's out of the stratosphere. She's out of that stratosphere.
Yeah.
Thames is at the Grammys.
Fam, that's what I'm saying.
Third row. Like,
bro, she was at the Grammys. Jay-Z had to go out of his way.
Fam. She was in the seats where if you go up to use the toilet, they have to have someone to sit in your seat because of the
man. Superstar. Her dress was blocking someone behind her view.
Like, fam.
And that person didn't say Pim, because that's Thames.
Didn't say Pim. That's Thames.
That's Thames. She's on Black Panther.
Like, fam. Grammy award winning.
Did you see Lizzo on The Mandalorian?
I did see Lizzo on The Mandalorian.
Shout out to Lizzo, man. Just shining.
Shout out to Lizzo.
Our Mandalorian as a princess. Congrats.
Look what happens when you can twerk and play the flute at the same time. Multifaceted woman.
Yeah, being able to twerk and play the flute opens doors.
It's opened so many doors. I remember the first time I saw her do that, she was twerking and playing the flute. And then Meg was in front of her twerking at the same time. I said, twerking to the rhythm of the flute.
Man.
And I think she was playing back that ass up on the flute.
And then guess what industry she was in? The flipping MCU. I promise you, doors are being opened.
Doors are being opened. What are the others now are calling?
Man, that was Davido, Timeless. Yeah, great review, fun review. If you enjoyed that one, please make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel, that you leave a like, leave a comment with other albums that you want us to get to, ring the notification bell whilst you're at it, and you can follow us on our socials at 2 Nigerians on Twitter and at 2_stubborn_Nigerians on TikTok and Instagram.